Today you see two vest tops. They're both the same. I've just made them in different colors and different fabrics. This is one of them. Look at this cute binding in there. Focusing a bit on princess seams today, which is a really cool topic. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have some woven sewing for you. And because we're sewing something that is for our upper half, we're going to be focusing a little bit on customizing feet for princess seams. No other way than to use your own body to do it. Princess seams are beautiful and they give you a great chance to achieve a great fit, especially if these princess seams have cup sizes, which this pattern does have. And what I'm talking about is a new pattern from Itch to Stitch called Madalena vest. Gorgeous. When I saw Kenneth, the owner designer of Itch to Stitch, post her pictures, I saw she made a vest in denim, and it was exactly what I'd envisioned before seeing her version and just seeing the line art. So I'm heavily influenced by her image, confirming that is what I wanted. I also wanted another color. As you can see in the line art, this is a sleeveless top. It is a vest. It's got a rounded neckline front and back. At the back, that rounded neckline is a little deeper than usual, but not deep that you're going to be showing your whole back or your bra. It's just a little bit different. I think it's really pretty. The armholes have a really good coverage. You won't be seeing your bra or anything. I really like how she designs the sleeveless armholes, and there's no gaping. It's very difficult to have gaping on your armholes when the pattern is well drafted with cup sizes, because usually not sewing the cup sizes that corresponds to us is what causes gaping on the armholes in sleeveless garments. Not in this case, because we have cup sizes A through to double D. It's going to give you an amazing fit, so I'm really happy with that. The princess seams are the ones that come from the armhole down like this, and at the back we have the same feature. Those princess seams, of course, because it's a vertical seam, will sort of incorporate waist darts as well. This is a semi-fitted design, and you have two lengths. One is cropped at the waist, one is a little longer at the high hip. I'm doing the high hip version. And the inside of the neckline and the armholes is finished with binding. I find that super easy, and the button placket is an integrated button placket. You're not cutting a separate piece. It's just integrated into that front piece where you fold it in, interface it, and voila, you have a button placket. I am going to show you how to do that, and it's not hard at all. Because Madalena is a brand new pattern at Itch to Stitch, it's going to be 20% off for a week. So that goes through next Wednesday, the 11th of September. I'll leave you my affiliate link at the top of the comment section, pinned, easy for you to find, also in the description box. If you click on that link, it will take you straight there. And if you end up purchasing, I do receive a small commission from that sale. That is one way I make an income creating free sewing content on YouTube. And if you use my link, you don't pay anything extra. It just helps me out a lot. So I'd really appreciate it if you use it. And if my sewing content is helpful for you, that is one way you can support my work. So thank you so much. Design for woven fabrics. For this one, you don't need any drape. I mean, if you want drape, that's fine, but you don't need drape because it is semi-fitted and you have a lot of fitting features like the princess seams. A structured fabric is going to work really well, and it's also going to be easier for you to work with. I wouldn't want to choose something too light or drapey for this one at all. So I would stick with denim, cotton twill, linen 100%, or blends with rayon or with cotton. A cotton sateen would work really well. If you plan to wear this with a layer underneath, like a really fitted turtleneck or something, you could use a wool suiting, but I wouldn't choose the really heavy wools. That just decreases the ease that you have inside the garment. The thicker and heavier the fabric, the smaller your garment becomes inside, even though you're sewing the same size. The thickness of the fabric just takes space from the inside, from the ease. So just keep that in mind. Slightly drapey, I would use a tencel twill, which keeps it medium weight. So that's just my opinion there. You do need some fusible interfacing, but not much, because the only area that we're interfacing here is that center front for the button placket. That is it. If you want to, you can use store-bought bias tape. I don't like store-bought bias tape. I've never found one that's really nice. When it's structured made out of cotton, they tend to feel like they're made out of cardboard. They're just really awful. So I'd rather make my own. I think satin bias tape is just too soft and too malleable for this type of garment as well. So I wouldn't want to use that either. I keep my satin bias tape for lightweight fabrics for those types of projects. I've bought really fun prints in quilting cotton, small amounts that I use for bias tape, and I love that. I also have some cotton shirting in navy and black that I always use to make bias tape, and I'm really happy with that. So think about your bias tape. I think it's always nicer to make your own, and you don't need excessive amounts. I think with 2 yards, you're okay with this project. Sizing, we have 00 to 40 US, up to a 62-inch hip. We have cup sizes here from A through to double D. As always, you need to check your high bust measurement and your full bust measurement, see what the difference is, and then look at the chart. If your difference is 2 inches, for example, you are a B cup. That is what usually patterns are drafted for that don't have cup size. It'll work for a small amount of people, but a lot of us have smaller A cups or larger cup sizes, so it's amazing that these are included in the pattern. I particularly have a 3-inch difference. I am a C sewing cup size, and it stays pretty stable even if I gain or lose weight at the bust. You're gonna have around 3.5 inches of positive ease around this area, at least for my cup size. So I would say it's enough for you to wear a very thin layer underneath. I wouldn't put anything really thick under there if you wanted to do that. I'm planning on just wearing my bra under these tops. At the waist, you have about 4 inches of ease. And then the hip size that you see on the pattern, that's actually your full hip. It's based on the block. You would see that same circumference for that size for other patterns as well. But consider that these tops don't go to the full hip. One goes to the high hip, one goes to the waist. With each to stitch, I think that if you take your body measurements and follow the chart, you always have a good result. There's never an excessive amount of ease or it's not drafted really tight. I think you'll be really good. I would not suggest you size down or size up with each to stitch. I think the result of the garment with the ease stated is really real and it's going to fit you really well. So that's what I say about that. I chose my sizes because I'm blending sizes. I have a 12 bust C cup and I blended to a 14 waist and hips. That is what's going to give me the best fit at this point. I didn't make any length changes, nothing like that. I wanted the high hip version. I did measure the height of the bust apex. So on the princess seam, at the fullest part, you have a notch. That's where I measured from there down. Flat pattern measurements, and I figured out the bust height was okay for me. I didn't need to lower that princess seam. In the case that you needed to lower or raise that bust apex, you can do that with a princess seam. And I do have a video that I uploaded on the channel a couple of years ago, but everything there is still valid. So I will leave that link down for you below if you need to have a refresher on how to do that. It's not hard at all. You can really customize where the fullest part of that curve ends up if you need it lower or higher. At this point in time, I have a 2.5-inch difference, which would make me between a B and a C cup. I did look at the curves of the princess seams and figured out I'll just do the C cup and just customize from there, knowing ahead of time I'll probably need to take away some volume from the princess seam over here. I didn't want to run the risk of sewing the B cup and not fitting me. As context, in my teens and 20s, I used to be a B cup, slowly increased to a C cup over time, 45 years old now. So your cup size can change over time. I think we need to be checking that pretty frequently because sometimes we get stuck with certain things and we just assume things stay the same over time when things change. So between a B and a C right now, I knew I was going to have to do some customized fitting to this princess seam, which is perfect. It's okay. That's what princess seams are there for, to give you an amazing fit. So no drama there. Let's see some sewing. I am going to be focusing on the customizing of the princess seams, but you'll see a lot of general construction. And because I'm leaving that front princess seam to the end, I did change the order of the steps a little bit. In the end, you still get the same result. So let's see. These are the pattern pieces for the Madalena vest. As you can see, there's only 4 main pattern pieces, so you won't spend much time cutting or preparing the pattern, nothing like that. What I have here is the front. This is the center front where there'll be a placket. Now in the instructions, it said to leave 1/2 inch free here and then just use 3/4 inch wide interfacing right there for the placket. I always just prefer to interface the whole thing. Personal preference, it won't really make that much of a difference. It's just that with this method where I interface the whole thing, I can block fuse, and with the other one I can't. So that is my reasoning. This is the side front. You can see there's princess seams over here. There's different cup sizes, so there'll be a slightly different shape according to the cup size that you choose. The back is cut on the fold right here, center back, and the side back also has princess seams right there. Sleeveless armhole and rounded neckline will be finished with binding. I made my own binding out of a cotton shirting. It's a fabric, it's really good for binding. It's nice and stable, easy to work with. I use this bias tape maker that has 18 on the back, 18 millimeters. It roughly ends up being about 3/4 of an inch wide around here, just under it. What I always do is trim one of these folds away so that in the end the binding turns out a little narrower. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I do have a specific video all about binding, so I'll leave that link down for you to see. This is how that thumbnail looks. We're mainly
going to focus on putting this together. It's super easy, and I'll be showing you on my body when I'm customizing the shape of this princess seam.
I think at this point I'm between a B and a C cup. I think this curve is a little too much for me, but I also think the B cup is too flat for me. I am gonna have to remove some excess volume from my upper chest. The bust height in this pattern is right for me. I did some flat pattern measurements down like that, where the highest point is. There's quite a bit of stay stitching to do. As usual, we know that we have to stay stitch the neckline. This is the back. I'll be doing everything directionally from the shoulder into the center, then flipping the fabric. And then we're also going to stay stitch the armholes because this is a sleeveless garment and I am planning on doing some try-ons while I'm sewing. So I know this has also the potential to stretch out. When we sew the binding to the neckline and armhole later, we're going to use a 3/8 seam allowance. So I'm stay stitching just under 3/8 seam allowance.
So regular stitch length, straight stitch.
On the front, this is a little armhole area as well. Another area we need to stay stitch that is not conventional is down this curve here of the center front. So here is the bust point mark. From here, from the armhole, we're going to stay stitch to about 4 inches below that mark.
Seam allowance later is going to be 1/2 inch, so I'm going to do this a little smaller than that.
And we're going to do the same thing on the back, on the center back piece, on both of those long curves.
This is something I rarely do in my own sewing. It's a step I wouldn't normally take, but I am following instructions here, so I am going to do it. I can see how it would stabilize this curved area. I think this is much more important if you're sewing larger cup sizes where the curve of the princess seam is more pronounced.
I don't think that's the case for my one, but I'm still doing it. Let's just do it. I've finished the stay stitching everywhere, and what I'm going to do now is just do some prep work to get some memory creases for the button placket. I'm not going to need that straight away, but it's helpful to do it before. So from this raw edge over here, I'm going to do a guide stitch at 1/2 inch because that's what we're going to fold in first, and then along the edge of that interfaced area, that's where the second fold comes in. You can see I've used my selvage right up to the edge to get this pattern out of a small piece of fabric, but that's not going to be seen. To get an accurate fold and not be eyeballing that at the iron and burning yourself, rather do the guide stitch. It's super easy to guide the seam allowance on the metal plate. And I've changed the color of my bobbin thread so I can really see it from the right side, which is where I need to see this. So I've got like a yellow underneath, and this is a longer stitch length so I can remove easily later. I'm pressing the first fold 1/2 inch, so this ugly side of the selvage is going to be completely hidden away. That's why I wasn't concerned about this. And my yellow marks here are really helpful because I can really see them. So once I've got that first fold, I'm going to press the second one where I also did a guide stitch. And there is the button placket already pressed, creased. I'm still not going to sew it or anything. We're going to be actually opening this up later, but the memory creases are going to help it stay neat. I'm going to put the back together first. Remember, this is where we had done some stay stitching there. Now in the instructions, you see a lot of snips here. I'm much more conservative in snips, and I'll only do them if I see that the fabric is having a bit of tension after I've pinned the seam. So I'm not going to be snipping. Along the curve, you'll see double notches up here and over here on both pieces, so that's going to make it easy for you to pin together. You have this triangle protruding at the seam line here, 1/2 inch. Both edges are going to be together, so that's what that looks like there. When you're sewing princess seams, you're sewing 2 different types of curves together. This one on the side is the convex, the one that goes out like that, and this is the concave curve. So what I find easier is sewing with the concave side on top, the center of the piece, and the side piece on the bottom. So that is, if there's slightly any ease along the curve, you end up with a bit of bias on that cut. The feed dogs are going to make it easier to ease in that curve nicely without getting any puckers. So that's just how I like to do it. Concave side on top. Concave side is going to be either the center back or the center front. Once I've got both sides pinned, I'm going to go ahead and sew this 1/2 inch seam allowance. Quite a large seam allowance, so then afterwards at the serger I'll be trimming some of that off so that the curve can lie better. Okay, here's the seam sewn. On this side was where we'd done the stay stitching and where you would have seen a lot of snips. I don't actually feel that there's much tension at all because the curve is so slight, especially in the back. So I personally am not going to be doing any snips here on this back area. I'll evaluate this when I sew the front princess seam. I might have to snip in there, but at least for the back, I'm not going to. I've been to the serger and I've tidied everything up. You can see I've left a smaller seam allowance. Now I'm going to push the seam allowance towards the sides over here and I'm going to do some top stitching. This is another presser foot. This has an L on it. It's also a type of blind hem presser foot, but different. When you move this, it moves this edge in or out, so you can actually get whatever seam allowance you want, and it's really helpful. I've set it here to about 1/8 of an inch. I think denim wants to be top stitched. I think it would look very weird if I left these not top stitched. It's a fabric that will press very well. That's not the issue. I'm not doing it to keep it flat. I'm just doing it for aesthetic reasons and I'm using navy thread. Now that the back is done, what I'm going to do is take the center front and put them right sides together at the shoulders. And I'm going to get this seam sewn. Been to the serger first and serge these. Denim is a pretty heavyish fabric and I wouldn't want to be serging them together and pressing them all together to the back. So I'm going to be pressing this one open and I'm sewing this at 1/2 inch seam allowance. Here is my vest on the table and there's another step I had to take before finalizing my princess seam fit, which was sew the side seams. I do need those sewn to be able to wear the vest and fit it properly. So if you end up prioritizing the fit of the front princess seam, which a lot of us might want to do, you end up switching the order of events a little bit compared to the pattern, which assumes that everything in the fitting is already done. But I'm fitting as I go, so I have changed the order of things. In the end, we're still going to end up with the same vest. Okay, here is my vest. I'm very happy with the fit at the back. Princess seams at the back is good. Everything's really nice. Now you can see that this is all pinned. It's not sewn. And this is the height of my bust there. But from here on up, I've taken a bit of a larger seam allowance, about 5/8 of an inch instead of 1/2 an inch. And I'm happy with that fit here. It also means I took out about 1/8 of an inch extra over here. So now that I've got the fit right and that I'm happy, now I'm going to go ahead and sew these seams and serge it. These seams are going to be pressed towards the center over here. And I'm also going to top stitch them the same way I did at the back. You can see that at this part of the curve, I've got a huge seam allowance there compared to the regular seam allowance. I'm going to trim this before going to the serger so it's easier. And both sides are not the same. This is the side where I took it in a little bit more than on the other side. I have already sewn the binding to the armholes, understitched, it's top stitched, same blue thread, so it's barely visible. And I want to show you what I'm going to do with the binding here on the neckline, which is a little bit different. So remember we've done these memory creases, I've just extended them. And the binding is going to come just before that fold. This binding eventually is going to come underneath this fold over here, so you don't need to go any further than that. So I left it about 3/8 of an inch before this fold right there, and I sewed my binding right sides together all the way to the other side. I trimmed, I snipped, I understitched, all of those things. I've still got to roll this into the inside and do the final top stitch, but before that I want to deal with the center front on the top. All I'm going to do with this memory crease is fold it right there, right sides together. You can see that interfaced area. I'm going to keep this first folded as it is, and just make sure this aligns over here at the back with the denim, ignoring this binding that we have right there. And now I'm going to sew this little bit with 3/8 seam allowance. Basically, I'm going to sew it flush against that binding right there. So right there, it's 3/8 seam allowance, and I'm going to close it up. And when we flip it, the binding is going to be neat behind this placket. There's a little seam, and now we flip. That's how it is. I'm just going to keep tidying it up. this fold has already been pressed when I made the binding. And that's it, top stitch all this neckline. And that's how the placket finishes at the top. At the bottom, it's similar. I have already done a crease for my hem allowance. So all I would do here is fold this onto itself, keeping that fold as it is right there. And then just doing a little seam at the bottom, right in the crease of the hem allowance right there, and then flipping. Here I am going to get rid of bulk because it doesn't need to be there. So I'm just going to cut it like this and then cut this part away there and flip. And at the bottom, we're going to have the hem allowance coming from behind the bottom placket. So that would finish the top and the bottom, and then it's all top stitching and buttonholes. This is the version that you saw in the tutorial. This is a denim, a tiny remnant I bought years and years ago. I had just enough for this. It was less than a yard. It was enough. That's why you saw that I cut the front right up to the selvage to get everything to fit. This denim has 1% spandex. In reality, it just has some give. If you try to stretch it, I wouldn't call this a super stretchy denim. I wouldn't want to use a stretch woven. I think the fit would be different in that case. So I'm happy this has just that little bit of give, but it's not like super stretchy. So it didn't change anything. I kept the small amount of top stitching I did here at the Princess Seams very discreet, just edge stitching, nothing too much. I didn't want contrast thread either. So that is at the back and at the front. Super nice. I used a lot of buttons. I've got 7 buttons. This one is the most important one because it's at my bust height. I try it on. I put the pin right where my bust point is to make sure I have a button exactly there. And that's how you can avoid gaping. So that's what I do. And then the buttons are 6 centimeters apart, which is 2 3/8. That's a good distance for me. And I'll turn it inside out so you can see. For this one, I made my own bias tape with the cotton shirting in navy, which is nice and structured, easy to work with. Remember, I have a full video on binding that shows you how to do this in a lot of detail. That's why I don't usually film that over and over and over, because I do have a good video on that. There is the back. You can see I've trimmed my seam allowances down to 3/8, so it's not bulky. The front as well. Seam allowances go to the center over here. In the instructions, I did mention this in the tutorial. You might see a lot of snips. I didn't do a single snip. I'm just not keen on doing snips like that. I just think of the future and washing and how those snips could end up in holes later on. So I'm not a fan of snipping unless I'm making a really tailored garment that's fully lined, where all the seams are enclosed and they'll be taking it to the dry cleaners, for example. But I'm going to be throwing this in the wash where it's going to be pretty violet in there. So I don't really think I need the snips, especially for this cup size. The curve is okay, and trimming down the seam allowance reduces a lot of the tension that the seam allowance can give you. So that is my reasoning there. There is the button placket, and my seams are pressed open everywhere. So that is it from the inside. Very nice. I have styled this 4 ways so you can see with lots of types of bottoms. You'll see that I'm not styling these tops with anything fitted, like a really fitted pencil skirt or really fitted pants. I don't think it's balanced that way. So let's see how I think it looks the best. This is my first Madalena vest from Itch to Stitch. I sewed a size 12 with the C cup size at the bust, blended to 14 at the waist and the hips. I think this length suits me well. I like how it looks with the shorts. I sewed the high hip length. There is a shorter version that's a little more cropped. I put a lot of buttons down the center. I really like the princess seams on the front and the back. This is a denim with a tiny amount of stretch. It's just got 1% spandex. I do like the depth of the back neckline. Rounded, is not too deep. I think it's pretty, it's different. The rounded neckline on the front also is not too deep. It's really good. The sleeveless armholes are amazing. I top stitched my princess seams. I had to customize the upper curve there. I had to remove some volume from there. Typical with princess seams, it's very customizable, and I really love the fit here. I can see myself wearing it so many ways. You'll see a few more next. Here's a very casual way to wear my vest with a white denim skirt. Navy and white is a beautiful color combination that I always enjoy. I have some white sneakers. It's really classic look. You could always go out like this. You'd never be in style or out of style. And that's the best way that I like to dress. So I'm really happy with this one. These outfits make me feel super young, and I love that sensation. And then dressing it up a little with a skirt. This is a really simple paneled pull-up skirt made in an athletic knit, super comfortable, and there's a lot of blue in the print. So the blue denim here goes perfectly. I could go to church like this and feel amazing, even though I'm wearing denim, which is considered more casual. I don't really care. I think you can dress it up a little if you want. Monochromatic look here. These are the Icaria pants, also from Itch to Stitch, wide leg pants in a rayon linen blend. Very floaty, very wide leg pants, but because the vest is semi-fitted, I think it goes really well. I like the length of this vest for wider bottoms like this as well, so I'm very happy, and I always love a monochromatic look. It's just easy, you don't have to think about combining colors. Here I have a fun bag just to spice it up a bit. Green shoes, love it. For my second version, I was really excited because I had a small amount of linen left from the same fabric. I've already made 3 garments and they have all been Itch to Stitch. I made some trousers, have a welt pocket on the back, beautiful. Those pants don't fit me at the moment. I need to take them in a little bit, so I couldn't use them for the styling, but it's the same fabric. I also have the Poas jacket from Itch to Stitch, same fabric, and then last year I made the Quebrada skirt from the same fabric. So I have a bit of a set to mix and match, which I'm really happy with. And there was a tiny amount left for this one. And now there's nothing left. Voila, this is my second one. I really love this purple. It's a plum color. I think it suits me really well. And just for some fun, because I didn't have any more fabric to make the bias tape, I made one in quilting cotton, which is a really nice print there. And it matches, and because everything is understitched, you'll never see it when I wear it. That is the whole point of understitching. Please don't skip it. And it just allows you to do some personal touches to your garments. I think it looks really pretty. Same amount of buttons, same everything. It's all exactly the same. This time it was just easier because I knew what to do about the fitting, so that was more relaxing. And it was just the best thing to know that I finally had a garment made of that tiny piece of fabric I didn't really know was going to be good for anything because it was so small. Less than a yard. So let's see, this one's styled a few ways as well. This is my second Madalena vest. It's actually the same size, everything as the first one, size 12 with a C cup, blended to 14 at the waist and hips, same length. It's just a different fabric. This is a linen rayon blend. It actually goes with my Quebrada skirt, also from Itch to Stitch that I made last year. I had a little bit left over and I'm so happy I have a set. I really like the length of this vest for an A-line skirt like this. Wouldn't wear slim type bottoms, either a pencil skirt or tighter pants with a top that's semi-fitted and shorter like this. So I think the silhouette goes perfectly balanced here, and the color is just amazing. Such a nice experience to sew it twice, sew it again, you know, everything's good. This time I used a fun binding in there with a quilting cotton that I had that matched. I had a lot of fun doing that. Adds a little personalized touch. My princess seams I'm really happy with. Took a little bit of extra work to customize them, but that's how princess seams are. So this is a little bit of a dressed up way to wear my top with the skirt as a set, but I can always dress it down as well. This grey and white skirt with stripes would go with any color on the top, so I took the opportunity to get this skirt out. It's beautiful, it's paneled, it's long. Got a button placket. I kept the shoes white and the bag white just to bring those light colors from the skirt into the outfit, and the only pop of color here is the top and my lipstick. So I'm very happy. I think the length of the vest is perfect for a floaty wider style bottom like this one, like this skirt, so I'm happy. Of course, I couldn't leave my Icaria pants out because they go perfectly. I love the look with my denim Madalena vest. Now this one with the plum color goes perfect with the navy, and I just enjoy this look so much. These are colors I think go together beautifully, and also the styles. Here I dressed it up a little bit, and you might think this is a midi skirt, but no, it's a pair of culottes. You'll see they are actually pants. And just to show a little bit of leg, I added a slit to these. This is the only way you'd think I'm wearing a midi skirt, because I would never wear a midi skirt, but if they're culottes, I will consider it. So this is just a dressed up way to wear my vest, and I love the combination of the plum purple color with the gray. Gray is the only color that actually will combine with any other color that you want, so this was a very safe bet here. I absolutely love my Madalena vest. I think they're so pretty, super satisfying make. I love sewing princess seams. They're really enjoyable. Take the time to fit them really well, and then you're going to be really happy with the way that you look, because the bust fit is just so beautiful. I love these for wider style bottoms, A-line skirts or fuller skirts, longer skirts, wide leg pants, wider shorts.
It's a great match and a great length for that.
I have put both of these on with the buttons all closed. There is an appropriate amount of ease for you to be able to just pull this over your head without having to open the buttons. So I would say the buttons are not that functional. They're more for aesthetics. You don't really need to open them up and close them up to get inside the garment. So food for thought, I would make this on the fold. Just get rid of the line that has the button placket extension. Just fold it there and then cut the front on the fold. And you can have a simple top with no buttons, but with the same fit. I think that's a good option. One thing you might notice, I didn't style these like vests as such with garments underneath. That's because it's just so hot, I can't bear it. We're in full on spring, and it's just really hot. But I would consider styling a really thin fitted second skin type turtleneck underneath in the winter. I would consider that, but it wouldn't be my first choice just because of the weather where I live right now. I know other people would have different styling options. It's just, this is all personal. This is all very personal because we all have different contexts, and I would rather just wear this on its own, not open, just as it is, without any layer at the bottom. But know that there's more options, of course. I think the princess seams are gold. You know, the fit is so amazing because they are there. Otherwise, you would have gaping or drag lines at the waist going out like that. There would be so many fitting issues if you didn't have cup sizes like this. And that's why I love these woven patterns so much. It is to stitch with the princess seams. It makes a huge difference. So I recommend, don't forget that this one is on sale through next Wednesday, the 11th of September. Or the information, the links down below in the comment section, easy to find. I'll see you again very soon with more sewing on this channel. Bye. Have a great rest of your day.